Barrister. Yes, I think that brings us to the end of this topic. We shall be taking on to the last, going on to the last topic. But before then, we've been having a very robust conversation with Barrister Austin Manta, a very, very senior lawyer of over 40 years in practice, in legal practice. We also have been discussing with Mr. Segun Onibiyo, a senior journalist. We've been analyzing and keep profiling solutions to the Nigerian problem that we all are actually suffering from. We all are part of the system. We all suffer. We are suffering the same, everything, everyone, especially common people like us on the street. We all are suffering, having the negative impact is actually telling on us all. So, and we really need, we're in desperate, Nigerians are in desperate need of reprieve, desperate need of relief, honestly, in the way the system is run. Yeah, so that takes us to the next and the last topic on this show. Yes, okay, we're still talking about Nigeria, the bane of Nigeria, the problem. Now, we have discussed in the past, we've debated we debated in the past in our previous show, who actually is to take the blame of the bane of Nigeria. My opinion was the judiciary should go with the larger blame or largest blame. And the barrister disagreed with me, which you made some points, and I eventually, I think you and Nibio, eventually concurred with those points. But now another element in this vein is our spiritual, our religious leaders. It just occurred to me because I was reading some stuff, and that article actually made sense to me, and it reminded me of how our pastors. I'm using that word specifically, pastors. We all have Muslim imams and sheikhs or whatever that do, but honestly, I'm just being sincere and frank. I'd rather just focus on our pastors because they are overwhelmingly, our Christian leaders are overwhelmingly more corrupt than the Muslim leaders. That is just the reality. So that's why I'm focusing on them. And so pastors, Barrister, okay, let's start with Segun. What do you think about this? That pastors, in my opinion, pastors is equally, I see them, the truth is, I see them as equal with judiciary and the politicians, as equal in the problem, equal contributor of the Nigerian problem. What is your thought on that?
Oh, well, before our system of the democratic system was adopted, aside from traditional rulers, religious leaders were also very influential. Their thoughts and they are thought to be people who can help influence the people and help them believe in rules and ways of and systems and how things should be and how things should work. Unfortunately, what we have now are actually people who set up churches. If you can't find a job in Nigeria these days, one of the easiest way to make money and feed yourself, of course, is to open up a religious center. And of course, aside from the people who also add some one or two spiritual things to it, going traditional and adding it to Christianity and their faith. And they will tell you, oh, look, we understand that you're going through this problem and that problem. And of course, once they mention one or two things about you, suddenly you key in. Then the next thing is to start to brainwash you and before you know what is going on, they start to tell you, look, the only way to get to heaven is to go through me. Sell whatever it is that you have, bring the money to me, and of course, come and serve for a couple of days. And then from there, you go to heaven, which is quite unfortunate. We had one of them like that somewhere in Adeboye. I think about 2-3 years ago. It was still in the news up to last year, who said his members are the people who are the first class tickets to go to heaven. And from his church, which is somewhere in the bush, where people can't even get good drinking water, that from there they will start to begin to ascend to heaven, which is quite unfortunate. You see, where there is no education and where people I don't know how to put this word now, where people are lost, where people completely don't have a mind of their own, it is very easy to just put them together.
Sorry to cut you short. Did you say where there is no education? Sheikh, you and I know that in these churches, that same church you are talking about, and other churches that have similar tendencies or similar dispositions, you will find learned people there, graduates, doctors, professionals, professors. So what have you got to say about that?
Oh, well, I'm attending a class, attending a building with 4 walls, and obtaining some certification does not amount to education.
You know, right?
You see, yeah, and we just spoke about some professors here who are appointed and made are given serious positions, and they suddenly get there and they mess up. I was even going to add then to what Barrister said. We used to have a professor. No, I wasn't a professor now. I'm not sure if he was a professor, but Babatunde Fafunwa, his name, who then was the chairman of Teachers Union way back under IDB. And there was so much agitation under him for a turnaround of the educational sector. And suddenly IBB made him a minister. And immediately the man got there, he changed. And as a matter of fact, he was even arresting some of the teachers who were protesting and locking them up. I think it was under him that some universities were locked up for close to a year or 2 years. And a lot of people missed out on graduation. And when he was interviewed, and people were saying, but you are one of these people now, why are you behaving like this? They need pay rise, and they need a better life and a better condition of working. He said, look, it is different when you are there on the floor than when you are up there as a leader. So you see, education as it is, it goes beyond just obtaining a certificate. It has to do with what you have learned and what you have been able to translate life into with what you have learned. You understand? So it is even more easy for them to fool some of these supposed educated people than the ordinary man who is on the street who is hustling. It's even more easy for them. It is quite unfortunate where we have found ourselves in a state of hopelessness and recklessness, that the only way people think they can break out of all of these chains is to be closer to God. And unfortunately, a lot of fake prophets, who call themselves prophets, have stepped forward, and they are doing some fake miracles. Immediately, they are able to just solve one problem. People believe that they can solve every problem. And that's one of the reasons why Christ himself said in the Bible that judgment is going to start from his house. Now, the question is, the house that we have that have fake pastors, are they actually house of God? That is the question. Because if somebody is fake, for instance, I think it was, I'm not sure it was a skit, I think it was a video, and it was real, of somebody who is a pastor of a church, and somebody was to pay tithes. And I think he overpaid the man by 100%. He was to pay 100,000 naira, and I think he paid 1 million naira. And he told the pastor, please, sorry, I was to give you 100,000 naira, please refund my 900. And the man said, what you have paid to God cannot be returned back to you. The man had to take the police to the pastor. So you see, it is quite unfortunate where we have found ourselves that people now, because they have lost hope, because there is no leadership, because people's thought processes have been tampered with. The only place that they think they can find succor is in the church. And unfortunately, there are so many false prophets, because of course we are in the end times. The Bible has mentioned it. So because we are in the end times, it's very easy for these people to key into this to also feed themselves and feed people with negative thoughts and mess up their mind. It is quite unfortunate what the church has become, because as far as I'm concerned, it has become a business. Nobody's talking about the faith anymore. Nobody's discussing about the kingdom of heaven anymore. What they're talking about is prosperity. How can you become a rich man tomorrow? They will tell you, look, if you pay your tithe regularly, that's the only time that the heavens will open up to you and you make money. There was a discussion. There was an argument on this where people were saying, look, what they were saying then was because there was war, and I'm not sure who they are now, who the priests needed to be fed. And for you to feed them, they were not saying that you should be giving them money, you should be giving them farm produce. That should we bring farm produce to the church now and give to the pastors, will they accept it? Now, with the farm produce that were given, that was practiced then in Israel, is what the pastors now practice in monetary terms. And they will tell you, some of them would even tell you, I've heard a friend of mine argue with his pastor on phone, and the pastor was saying, do you think I don't know how much you earn as salary? Do you think I don't know that you earn XYZ amount of naira? So why are you giving XYZ as tithes? You should be giving, if you don't give XY, if you don't give this number of this thing as tithe, God is going to take back that job and make you lose it. Then you will now cry. Then you will now understand. That was the words coming out of the mouth of a pastor. This is not to say that there are no men of God, true men of God, who are out there. I'm not going to mention names so that it doesn't seem I'm biased. There are still true men of God who don't even pastor a church. What they do is go about to preach the gospel in truth and in sincerity without having to add all of this to it. It is because of the situation where we have found ourselves. People now trust in pastors more than they even trust in themselves and even trust in God. People don't even trust in the work of their hands. They will tell you to pray. Somebody will tell you to bring your phone that is going to pray for, what do you call it now? A miracle alert. My brother, you know work. Then somebody will pray for you. Then a miracle alert will. I'm not saying there are no miracles. There are miracles. But why would you want to be so how do I put it? To be so put down that somebody will not tell you, bring your phone, we're going to pray over it, then you get a miracle alert. Meanwhile, you have not gone out for the whole week to do any work. You have not spoken to anybody. Probably they're going to give you any kind of business. You have not got anywhere to say, okay, look, I have said for at least 1 hour and I'm expecting money. So it is quite funny and unfortunate where we have found ourselves. And look, this is not the end of it. People will continue to con people all in the name of God. But then the Bible has said it, that judgment is going to start from the house of God himself. So whoever thinks they are fooling the people by using God's name to feed will suffer from the consequences.
All right, yeah, before we get to go to Barrister, yeah, the church is actually part of the Nigeria's problem, honestly. Nigeria is so blessed with a whole lot of so many churches. For me, I call it the proliferation of the church. That's also because a situation where on a street in a street you find churches at almost there is a place in I don't know if that building is still there in Kaduna, where in a particular compound in Sabo you have 4 churches in one compound. 4 churches inside the same location. There are 2 up and 2 down. It's an upstairs. 2 up, 2 down. On Sunday, if you get there on Sunday, my God, it's just what you will experience in that environment is in the pollution, noise pollution. This one coming this way, this speaker coming that way, or whatever. It's just nuisance, posing nuisance to the society, to the public, and that is the problem. Now, my point is this: why I think that church leaders are part of the bane of Nigeria is because they encourage it. Their lifestyle, their teachings, their dispositions encourage it. Now, Nigeria, we are so blessed because we are a country that is whose foundation is, I wouldn't say whose foundation is in God. No, we are not like the US, who actually founded the country on biblical principles. Nigeria is different, but we are a spiritual country, a country that is so, we are naturally spiritual. In everything we do, we apply spirituality to it. So we are a religious country. Let me use that word. An informally religious country. So we believe in our spiritual leaders, our imams, our sheikhs, our pastors and bishops and reverends and evangelists or whatever. We believe so just like you noted earlier, Onibi, that we unfortunately we have come to it has come to a point where we believe more on our pastors than God himself, which is very, very dangerous. And that is why we are where we are today. Now, because we are a spiritual country, we so believe in our spiritual leaders. And that is where the problem is coming from. Because our leaders that are supposed to, because even our politicians, they listen to our politicians who are Christians and Muslims, they listen to their spiritual leaders. As their spiritual heads don't tell them the bitter truth. And the spiritual overseers, their pastors and imams don't preach to them, don't preach to their congregation, to their audience, the truth. Pastors or overseers, what they are after is how much tithe. I remember our local assembly, just like you noted, yes, in everything, when they say these people are bad or this thing is bad or these people or this region are overwhelmingly known for so, it doesn't for so attitude or such trait, either bad or good. It doesn't mean that all of them have the same. No, it means that overwhelming majority of them are in that line. So, and the same thing applies, just like you noted, we still have good ones, but very, very significant number of good ones can be found in the Christendom of today. So the former in Kaduna, I was fellowshipping with an assembly. This assembly, I won't mention them, but they were constructed. There was a construction going on, a kind of modification in the church. And people were contributing. There's this man, I don't know, maybe he was a contractor. Nobody knows what exactly he was doing, but I think he was a contractor, so I can't remember. Who actually came then when money was money, contributed, I think about 600 and something thousand. I think 650 or thereabout, if I still can, but around 600,000. And I remember our presiding elders would refer to him then as he was referred to. Now didn't accept the money. First of all, asked him, please, with all due respect, sir, can you please tell me what you do for a living? The man felt embarrassed and offended. So what do you mean by that? What has what I do for a living got to do with this? The church needs money and I'm contributing. Whatever. I say, yes, honestly, we need this money, but the point is not money from anywhere. I'm sorry, with all due respect, if you cannot actually define to us exactly what you do for a living, the church will not accept this money. The man angrily took his money and left the church or whatever. Now, the church is not a prosperity church. The church actually, they struggled to finish that project. So what? That is the point. Now, but what we have today, this is the area, this is where the churches are encouraging politicians to go into corruption rampage. Because you put so much pressure on the members, some of them who are political leaders, to the extent that how much do they earn? You are demanding or requesting for something that is more than their salary, for more than their income, their legitimate income. What do you expect them to do? An average Nigerian, they are egocentric in nature. They want to be like God in public. They want people to respect them, to reverence them in public. They love show off. So people come up publicly. You call out people publicly to donate for one thing or whatever. Sometimes you even call names. Sometimes you just mention millions or billions that we need so amount. We need 10 people to be out or whatever. So people come out as a way of show off. They want to show off. And for them to show off and to measure up to what they showed off for, they will have to go extra miles, go outside the box to measure up to that, to their false image. In so doing, they go stealing, go on corruption rampage, go stealing public funds to meet up with their ego, a sort of. And that is exactly what is happening. Our pastors are part of the problem because they are exerting too much pressure on their weak, I call them weak audience, weak members, because if you are not weak, one man will not just man the podium and tell you to do something and you behave like someone that is hypnotized to do something, someone that is under spiritual diabolic remote control. Nobody is, no, but I don't believe in that nonsense. Nobody hypnotizes anybody, nobody uses or whatever. Some people will say these men of God they use, yeah, they use or whatever, but if you believe it work, I've attended some churches or whatever, and sometimes at some of the churches I walked out. I remember some time ago I attended a church and something was going on there or whatever, and something was going on, and the pastor, the moment when you pass through, when the pastor is coming to your side, passing through your whatever, your side, everybody goes on his or her knees. The moment he gets to your point, you just go on your knee and you don't look at his face, you just bow, go on your knees or whatever. I say, Kilo, what is going on here? I was invited actually. What the hell is going on here? And incidentally, I was dressed in, there was an outfit, I had an outfit that made me a kind of conspicuous in the public, that I was putting on white, pure white. It was a lace, put on white, or putting my shoe white. So I wasn't that gorgeous in dress, but I dressed in a way that made me look conspicuous, that made me stood out, made me to stand out in the whatever. So when this thing was going on, you see people, you see when the man came by my side and everyone on my lane just went on their knees and bowed or whatever. So it was obvious I was the only one standing because I was just standing. I stood, and people just looked at, some people looked back and was wondering, who is this person? And it happened again. The man was coming back, everybody or whatever, I just do whatever. The next time I was coming back, the next time I just took my Bible and left. I walked out, everybody was looking at me. And the person who invited me rushed out and said, hey, why are you embarrassing? What is the problem? I said, what the hell? Why did you invite me to this kind of charade? What nonsense is this? I don't have attention. So I left. So, but that is the problem. In that church, you have learned people, for God's sake, educated people. Everyone there, civilized, so-called civilized people. Now you will sit down, somebody will mount the podium and teach nonsense. And tell you that if you don't pay your tithe, you go to heaven, just like Adeboye said some time ago. That if you don't pay your tithe, you go to hell. Not paying your tithe will lead you to hell. And what do you expect from a respected man of God like that, globally, to say that? What do you expect from naive people who are supposed to be smart? What do you expect them to do? In churches like that, you hear tithes going for billions. Somebody paying tithes worth billions. Publicly, we've had that, we've read that. So what do you expect? So this is what we have found ourselves. Our pastors, who are supposed to be religious leaders, who are supposed to be representatives of God, to preach holiness, to preach the kingdom of God, the gospel of our Lord Jesus Christ unto salvation. Rather, what they are preaching is the gospel of prosperity unto affluence, unto inflation, unto opulence, unto luxurious life. That's exactly what they're doing. So our pastors, our men of God are encouraging, are part of the bane of Nigeria, the Nigerian system, corrupt system. They encourage their members to steal government resources. They don't discourage or whatever. All they do is to massage people's ego. The moment you contribute plenty, you become recognized in the church. You receive positions, high positions. You become the chairman of the building committee, the chairman of this, chairman of that. You become an elder, you become a deacon. They give you spiritual appointments just because you are financially viable to their selfish cause. So that is the problem. That's where the problem is coming. That's how the problem is coming from the church. Barrister, please, can you come in this and give us your opinion on how you think the church is involved in the corruption of the Nigerian system.
Well, my views on this are very well known. It was Karl Marx who said religion is the opiate of the masses. It's not surprising in an atmosphere of extreme poverty and ignorance, charlatans and dupes and all manner of things thrive very well. So it will not be surprising that in Nigeria, where poverty and ignorance have reached dangerous levels, you have all manner of deception and all manner of practices thriving in that atmosphere. The pastors are not exempt from the situation in the country. And when I say the pastors, I'm not putting all pastors in one basket. You will still find some God-fearing pastors who want to propagate their faith or who believe that they are actually propagating their faith in accordance with the will of God. But like Shegun pointed out, it's quite clear to everybody in Nigeria that the emerging pastors, the emerging churches are merely business ventures because it's the easiest way to strike out of poverty.
Barrister, sorry to cut you short. Sorry, I'm sorry. Yes, Shegun mentioned that this is what you imagine. He mentioned it in a different way, but I think I disagree with, I didn't really, okay, I agree with him to an extent, and I agree with you to an extent. But the truth is that at this moment, yes, it used to be the emerging churches. Today, the established churches have become corrupt. The established, I'm a born-again Christian, I'm a believer.
I'm not observing the emerging churches. You have to look at what is happening. Thousands and thousands and thousands of churches are emerging. They are taking away members from the established churches. And what tactics are they using? They are promising things, miracles, and everything. So some of the established churches are also copying some of these practices that they see being successful in the emerging churches in order to retain and increase their membership. So the thing affects everybody to the extent that if it is not poverty and ignorance, how will somebody say you are going to get a miracle alert in your phone? Money will miraculously come to your account. Now there are miracles, but God does not do those type of miracles. That's the truth. So, but the level of ignorance for people to believe so much shows you the level of ignorance, the level of poverty that is prevalent in the society in Nigeria. They are ready to listen to anybody because these things represent hope. If you are down completely and you are ignorant and somebody say, I will pray, and you are a religious person, by the way, you believe in God, and somebody say, I will pray, and you get a miracle alert, there are a lot of people that we succumb to that, a lot, because of their ignorance and because of the poverty. So these things contribute. And because of that, a lot of people are taking advantage and feasting on the poverty and ignorance of the average Nigerian citizen. That is why you see proliferation of churches on every street, on every corner. At the same time, if you look at the Catholic Church, if you look at the current Pope, he has tried to adapt the church to the current way of doing things in order to retain membership of the Catholic Church. In other words, he's not having fidelity to the doctrine, but he's more concerned with retaining membership and possibly increasing the membership of the church. And you know that the more the church has members, the more income attains to the church. But at the same time, the spiritual level comes down. And I always give the example. In Nigeria today, I think the article came out, 2 days ago. Nigeria has churches with the largest auditoriums in the whole world.
Yeah.
In the whole world. Now, go back, cast your mind back and look at the Cathedral of Istanbul. That was the largest church in the whole world, in the Eastern world, in the time past. Where is that church today? It is converted to a mosque. So you build big cathedrals, big auditoriums, but you do not build the people spiritually. Yeah. So when the trouble comes, where do they go? Nothing. The biggest cathedral then, which is in Istanbul in Turkey today, is converted to a mosque because the people were not spiritually trained and armed. This is exactly what is happening in Nigeria today. You find millions and millions flocking to these big cathedrals, boasting that my church has the biggest cathedral, my pastor is building this one and this. But it's at that spiritually, you go out, you see that their behavior is not different from the person who did not even go to church. So they are not building people, they are rather exploiting the poverty and ignorance in the society, and majority for the benefit of themselves. So to that extent, the churches and the pastors are contributing to the problem of Nigeria and not its solution, even though we can also agree that to a certain extent, they are also helping in some way. But on the greater side, they are greater contributors to the problem of Nigeria today.
Honestly,
they are promoting ignorance. They are promoting ignorance. They are promoting, how do I put it? Not fidelity to the faith, but worldly and material possessions and distinct incidents. That's what appears to be happening.
All right. Thank you so much. Now, the truth is, I expect much more than what pastors are. I don't see. I'm yet to see the good side, the good that the church is actually contributing to nation building. I'm yet. We may have some skirmishes of pastors who are doing some things, who are really standing true to their calling and doing the right thing. But honestly, unfortunately, the bad part, the negative as part of this whole thing is overwhelming. It overwhelmingly outweighs the positive part of it, the positive side of it. Now, what I expect from men of God are to be a rod of chastisement to our leaders. I don't know if you remember, I don't know, Barry said you're not into church stuff. I don't know if do you remember, you should know, no matter what, you should know Evangelist Oyedepo in Kaduna.
Of course, I do.
Good. Obviously, Shegun will know him too, if you have stayed that long in Kaduna. He's not vocal now. I remember during Abacha regime, he was almost killed. Abacha almost sent, I think he was threatened because I don't know, it's been quite a while that I saw or I watched a pastor, a man of God, actually going against the powers that be, government, the way Ojaye went after them. We are talking about the military, for God's sake. This man was fearless. He was preaching against the military, against Abacha. We saw him them every week. He will come on, was a paid slot on television. Everybody knew him. Abacha, Abacha felt threatened by his messages. Therefore, so he returned that threat to him. He was almost killed. So that is exactly what I expect of our men of God. Of course, men of God like that, what do you expect? Oyedepo is not that rich. He has a school. He's an average man. He doesn't lack necessities, but it's an average man. He has missions on the field. I don't know of now, but he should be a very old man now. So that is what we are talking about. Those are the kind of men of God we need. If we had such people, 50 or 100 of such people, just 100 of such men of God in Nigeria, attacking our leaders in a very, very biblical way, in a just manner. Oyedepo was not, everybody know, we all know that he wasn't coming on the screen to insult any leader. He was practically teaching, preaching to them, rebuking them, chastising them with the word of God. If we have between 50 and 100 of such kind of men of God in Nigeria, these 50 and 100 can overwhelm the bad ones. I bet you. That men of God that will be as vocal, as aggressive, spiritually aggressive as evangelist Matthew Oyedepo, as he was those days.
That is because he came with a program. He was preaching what he called, give me that old time religion.
Really correct. That's the point.
What these people are preaching now is a new
that's the point.
It's a new religion. So you can see the difference. They are prioritizing material well-being over spiritual growth. So they have become so comfortable riding private jets, living in mansions, driving exotic vehicles that they cannot protest, they cannot ginger their congregation to stand up and face.
Honestly, unfortunately, even including people like Kumuyi, president, you can imagine president like Kumuyi giving praise to Tinubu's government for that matter, of all governments, Tinubu government. Yeah?
He has relocated to the UK.
Yeah, he has relocated to the UK now. That's the point. Even Kumuyi that I used to respect so much. In fact, I used to see him as the only one that stood out among the popular ones who have won. All of them don't. Or the popular ones, our fathers, them Oyedepo, Adeboye, Abioye, Kumuyi, all those old ones. They don't have scandal around them. I commend them for that. No, all those scandals with just in comparison to what is happening with the emerging ones or whatever, who started probably 10, 15 years ago, whatever. So, but the truth is that there are a different kind of scandal. Yeah, I can't, some people may not consider that kind of scandal, but consider that scandal because it's just like Adeboye, so some of his teachings for the past 5 years. Anyway, I've been a very, even when I was a redeemed member, I was critical of Adeboye. Those days in 1990 something or whatever, 2000, 2001, I left redeemed in 2002. I finally left them, 2002. I was redeemed. From there, I started criticizing Adeboye even when as a member then. During Jonathan regime, I wrote an article against Adeboye then. And I don't even want to go into that. So he too has his own bag of, I've always had one thing or the other against him doctrinally. Some things that he does that are clearly unscriptural, clearly speaking, that clearly contradictory to the scriptures. Sort of. So just like that, what do you expect? What we have today are men of God, overseers who are romancing or a kind of coddling the corrupt government of the day. Kumuyi of all people, for God's sake, his own was even surprised, so shocking to me because I thought he was the only one who stood out for me. But recently, I just felt disappointed. I felt disappointed. I said, oh, you man, don't get carried away by evolution, the worldly evolution. The word of God is not there. I don't know why people are bringing in evolution into the world, into the church. The church is not supposed to be. God has nothing to do with evolution. And that is why the Bible says he is the same yesterday, today, and forever. What God's word was, still is, and still will always remain the same thing. So for churches to begin to evolve in their conduct, in their messages, that is satanic. It is conflicting to the word of God. So anybody who was preaching this way yesterday and today comes and says, no, this interpretation of the scripture is no longer that way, it is this way, then I begin to question your calling in the first place. And that is just it. Anyway, I don't know if Shegun, if you have something to say to round it up, please go ahead.
All right. Well, you see, some of these things are things that we can't really do anything about other than to continue to talk about it, because even the world itself as a whole, the devil has taken over, and it's quite unfortunate. And if it were not written in the holy books, one would have said, "Oh, probably this is strange." But even then, we had false prophets, people who come to speak in strange tongues and perform some kind of miracles. And because of the kind of situation we have found ourselves as a country, it's very easy to follow some of these people, and which is quite unfortunate also. But at the end of the day, God is still the person who is going to judge whoever is fake and reward whoever is real. So, but what is most important, like I keep telling people, is for people to always have a mind of their own. If you don't have a mind of your own, it becomes a problem. I've heard people say, don't criticize men of God because the judgment is for God, because God has said that you should not criticize his own men. But of course, if you know that somebody is fake, or somebody is going out of the way, I think what would be best for me anyway would usually be that I have a mind of my own, and it is not everything that he said that should be believed. Even the people of old who search the scriptures, if you have preached about something to me, I would go back and search and do my own research. Is this thing true? If it is not true, it is even if it is true, it is still left for me to believe.
Yes, sir. All right.
Also,
okay, go ahead. Oh, I thought you. Okay, network broke. Go ahead, please. Oh, is it done? Okay, it's done. Yeah, okay. All right. Thank you so very much, my wonderful guests, Barrister Austin Manta and Mr. Shegun Onibio. For actually, this is an impromptu. I gave an impromptu call, and the both of you responded promptly. I appreciate that, and I thank you so much for that. And I think that brings us to the end of this show. Viewers, as you know, this is a JIBRIN Angle. We are coming to you on Oweleke TV. This is a show. If you've been with us from the beginning, and that's exactly what we do here. The purpose of this show is to try our own best to at least contribute our own quota to bring a kind of sanity, a level of sanity to the country, to Nigeria as a nation. This is the way we think we can actually contribute our own quota to building Nigeria, because Nigeria, we don't have any other country other than what we have right now, and we really have to, if we allow it to keep going this way, our children yet unborn may not have something to fall back to. We may have to be the system may have to be irredeemable at this point. Even though I have considered in the past as we are in a state of irredeemability. A part of me still have that sense of that sense of positivity, optimism, that there is something, there is a Messiah, either in a human being or in a situation that will come up, that is around the corner somewhere that we may not have seen or heard about the situation or the person. I just still believe that something somewhere I still have, and a part of me, it may be a little bit kind of it may be an iota, but at least a part of me still believes something, still believe in Nigeria, that Nigeria that will eventually come to a better ending. So I hope, and our leaders, they said a word is enough for the wise. I hope they are listening, because everything in life has expiration. Every situation, anything, whatever has a beginning, always have an end. And that is just the truth. Corruption, there was a beginning. It has a beginning in our system. The foundation of our system as a country was corrupt. But I still believe, a part of me, like I said earlier, believe that there will be, because as if we truly if everything that has a beginning has an end, it obviously means that the corrupt system that had a beginning in Nigeria will eventually come to an end. And that brings us to the end of this show today. Thank you, gentlemen, Barrister Manta and Mr. Onibio.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure being here.
All right, bye.
It's a pleasure.